Hey, welcome to a new Project Kamp update. So we bought this big piece of land and are prototyping a more sustainable way of living. Not sure how it's gonna go, but let's see. And in the previous videos you could see us hooking up electricity, getting water, planting a lot of herbs. And now this is all set up, I realized we actually achieved a very cool thing. Let me show you. Okay, so this is kind of a special tea, and I think this tea gives us a lot of hope. Let me explain. So usually when I got a tea, the tea would come from China, then electricity and water, I have no idea where it came from, and in the end I pee it and it goes to a sewage system somewhere far away. But this tea is quite different because the water comes from 10 meters away from here, the electricity to heat it up is generated on the solar, on the roof, and the tea or the herbs itself, they grow right there in the garden. So to produce this tea, it's all made here, and in the end when I'm done, I pee it back into the land. So it's a very small little circular system just to make a tea, which is a massive difference compared to a usual tea, even though in the end they're both just nice teas. But I think this tea is a good representation of how we like to have our little systems on the land here, to try to make them as local as possible, to reduce the amount of energy and electricity and resources needed to drink a tea. And obviously this can apply to many other things, but the tea is a good starting point. So I'm quite excited now drinking this tea. Anyway, this update is not about teas. This update is actually going to be a bit chaos, because this week we had a lot of people dropping by. Not necessarily long-term helpers, but for 2 weeks we're going to have a lot of people helping out from Fresh Plastic, because we had a little reunion to come together, and yeah, when these people come they also want to work and do stuff. So in this update I'm going to show you a lot of little things we've been doing this week. It started by people dropping by in their van, and this is actually why we cleaned the van area in update 14, so people can just park and sleep. And all the pathways we chopped in the early updates were used so we can have a tour at the land. It's usually the first thing we do with the visitors. Walk the pathway so they can have a good glimpse of the land, including climbing up some rocks to get a good view. And the big rock actually turns out to be a bit more complex for most people, but all good. But we did notice we actually missed the path to go straight from base camp to the creek, where people can cool down when it's too hot and take a little dip. So Julie and Alex started chopping a path through the mimosa forest. It's kind of cool because it's an area we actually never really explored until now. It turned out to be a beautiful path, and they also found something great while making it. Here, Alex can show you.
So here we are at the big grass patch. Over there is kind of a campsite. It's nice by the creek. It's when it's nice and hot. And usually to get to base camp from here, you'd have to go all the way around through the grass field and then go up. It's kind of boring. So we decided to chop a new path, and we found a new ruin. Let's go check it out. So this part is like full of thorns. Cleared it out mostly. And you can see here a lot of burnt wood from the fire that happened earlier on the land. This used to be a big oak tree that just burned in the fire. It's kind of sad. Now it's just these little mimosas everywhere. There are all sorts of scraps here from the fire. This looks like a wheel from a car maybe. Right, so here's the old washing machine and the drum. You can even see the motor from where it was before. And we're not really sure if it works, but these trees we decided to strip to try to kill the roots, and that way once this tree dies, more won't come back because they grow from the roots. So, yeah.
because it's an invasive mimosa tree.
Yeah. And we leveled some of the land here to make it a bit nicer. And now the path goes up that way, but we're gonna go over there and check out the ruin in that big oak tree. It's kind of steep. So here we have the ruin. And this one isn't really modern like the other ruins we found. It's just big granite stones, which keep it nice and cool. And we're not really sure what we'd use it for yet, but it's nice to find it because it's really easy to legalize these structures. And then we can build here whatever we want in the future.
So I found a bit of a treasure.
Yeah. It's kind of nice.
Is it fun to cut, Julie?
Yeah, I enjoy it.
It's alright.
And it also became quite hot in these recent days. So we enforced our dam, put a few big stones that we found near the kitchen, and yeah, just make the water level go up. Also, this guy had a genius idea.
Today we're testing Portugal sand, see if it's strong enough for our needs. So we're gonna try and boil an egg on the container. And it's pretty hot. We just give it a quick wash. Now it's drying up all the water, and next we're gonna be cooking up an egg in there, frying an egg, and that will be fed to Dave Atkins there. So let's see if he survives. Project Kamp goes on. Otherwise, sorry guys.
It's all over.
Yeah, it's all over.
Capture, because you're filming now, but it's...
Ooh. Oh.
Yeah, that looked cooler in the videos, didn't really work. And a few weeks ago we also found this big yellow cover. We wanted to make a shade roof with it for the workspace, so it's easier to work outside. So we set up a few old trees in the back and front of the workspace and connected the tarp, but the whole thing was catching wind, collecting water at night. So yeah, before it would break something, we just took it down again, so no shade roof yet. And before we set up a shower to cool down in the heat, but this was quite exposed. I mean, it's naked in the middle of base camp, so Michael wanted to make a wall. And we have many trees on our land, but they're still all very young, max 4 years old, and kind of weak. So it's hard to really build things with. And we've been looking for applications, and something like a wall for a shower actually seems like a good fit, since it doesn't have much structural strength to it. So we started chopping.
Wow, that's cool.
And during this time we also had a lot of meetings, because most of us didn't meet in the last 1.5 years, so it was a good moment to align, discuss all our projects and plan ahead. So the week was kind of busy, cooking in bulk again.
Okay, so we are making chapati. This is one of the traditional Kenyan chapati techniques.
We also had Dutch television dropping by, and at night it got cozy in the vans. And some serious games got played. But for us here at Project Kamp, it was a good moment to really test our systems. I mean, we set up many things, but do they all work? So for instance, after 2 cloudy days, we were out of solar energy. The dishwashing system isn't ready yet, and some systems just broke. So yeah, stuff to fix. And besides all of this, we had some friends visiting from Tamera, a community in the south of Portugal. We actually made a video about this community before for our research, which I'll put a link in the description below. And these guys are called Marcus
Hi.
and Silvano.
Hi.
They are specialists in permaculture and water retention landscapes. They came to have a look at our lands, our plants, and tried to figure out what to do next. So we sat down with them to ask a few questions to understand better the upcoming challenges with the land.
The fire risk in this part of Portugal, but in general, and that we find a lot in the Iberian Peninsula and in many other places in the world, and here it is very much in people's minds, which creates a pressure and a fear that more fires might come in the near future and are in fact happening every summer. And this land is surrounded by eucalyptus plantation, which is prone to fire and very hard to extinguish. And so there is a factor of unpredictable risk that is coming with deciding to settle and create a project, particularly here. It is also a challenge that we need to face on a global scale, because these extremes that we are creating through the destructive industry and exploitation of our ecosystems, we need to turn that around by regenerative stewardship of land. So it's also in a way the right choice to plant a seed of regeneration in degraded areas like this one.
And there comes the topic of the eucalyptus inn, and also here you see in our back the topic of the acacias, the mimosas. And usually the culture is of taking it out of the land, let it disappear. But it can be also seen, this problem or this fear, as a gift, and you can see it as a huge source of organic matter that helps you to create soil on the land, which is very much needed after many decades of mismanagement of this land. So erosion happened, the good soil went into the valley and into the ocean, but we can reverse it and create soil with the support of the acacias. So in this case we can make more research and finding the right methods of bringing this organic matter directly onto the soil so it can decompose and create a sponge that can retain the rain and then refill the aquifers, and so springs pop up again and other vegetation, the native vegetation for example, can come up easier again. So it's a challenge, and it's great to have them here now and to start to manage them and to use them also and to replace them. Yeah.
I am thinking there is an inherent challenge in a movement from an urban lifestyle to a more rural area, and with that comes an unknown environment for people who decide to do that. And this is also it's something that is good to happen, and it needs to happen, that we take more and more people take land into responsible stewardship, and I personally think cities can be much less densely populated, and there's a lot of land that is calling for a better stewardship by people. And the challenge in that is that much of the practices and the experiential knowledge that came from the people who, our ancestors, people who have lived in more rural areas, that knowledge is lost. So we need to relearn a lot of that. And this, I think that with that come phases of discomfort, and you feel a bit inadequate because it's a different way of life.
One of the good things is there is a lot of water. So usually if we think or people think about Portugal, it's often the topic, wow, it's very dry and there's no water, and actually we have a lot of water and it's enough for many things we want to do here on this land. So around 1,200 millimeters per year is a lot of water. It's more than in Berlin and London. It's just about, it's all falling in wintertime. So it's about management of this amount of water, but it's a gift to have all this on this land falling down. So, and a gift is to have all this organic matter just standing all over, and this in combination with the water that we have from the sky, this together, putting it on the ground, it creates very fast soil. Yeah.
And another aspect I would mention is that it is, with 10 hectares, it offers a beautiful frame to start working with that piece of land, and as I said earlier, to take it into stewardship, learn about it and develop a relationship. It's not too big, but it's also not too small. So I can see that lots of ideas and a decent group of a decent amount of people can live here. There's space, and with that comes also a certain freedom to do research and to create and to expand. I wasn't so bothered by that. If you would not have mentioned to me, I probably would not have noticed in this short day here. And it's weekend.
Mm-hmm. Also, same, it didn't bother me. I'm half Italian, so maybe I make myself very much noise in my daily life, so I also didn't hear it so much, but I think also it wasn't the right time to have the experience of the noise. So it's also depending where you are. I had the privilege of sleeping in a valley where it's more protected from the sound of the street. So I think it's also quite about where to place ourselves in where to put the housings, where we are confronted with the noise or not. Tool. I mean, I saw already that you bought a chainsaw, and I saw already that you bought like a brush cutter to put down all the brambles, or to start to put down the brambles. This is already really a good approach, that you don't have to do it by hand anymore, how you did it at the beginning. You see it in the YouTube videos. I would say it would be a wood chipper.
I had the same.
Like everything that brings down the organic matter, that makes it small for the earth, using it as fast as possible for the microorganism, mushroom, mycelia and worms and so on. This is great. So it's a time machine for the future.
So usually you guys are not really on the YouTube. Now you are. You have any message for the people on YouTube?
Mm-hmm.
The earth is calling for partnership, I feel in our lifetime, in this time, we we witness how humanity is understanding that we're living on a finite planet. More and more people, I think, are not only affected by it, but are also aware of it. And if it's calling you, follow the call. Go establish your relationship with land. The call for land is also a call for responsibility. Like let's take responsibility within the country, within the continent, and the closer proximity of where we are. And so we can reduce our participation in the extractive global capitalism, and we really ground it in the soils, right where our feet are. So I want to see that in my lifetime, that many people do that. Yeah.
Alright, so that was it for this video. And I think next week, because we're gonna have this big group of people, which is very rare, we have one task on our to-do list which we never did. It's to clean the big workspace. It just always seems too big, too ambitious for 2 people. So I think next week we're gonna clean that one up, which should be exciting. Anyway, thanks for watching, and if you like what we do, make sure to visit support.projectkamp.com, and we'll see you in the next video.